Okay, so hey guys, welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Sterling versus Cejudo fight. If you are new around here then you haven't subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do need like the video, and let's get straight into it. So, going into this fight, Sterling is 22-3 with 3 KOs and 8 submissions, and Cejudo is 16-2 with 8 KOs and no submissions. This fight is for the UFC Bantamweight title. Sterling's last fight was a win via KO in round 2 versus Dillashaw, and Cejudo's last fight was a win via KO in round 2 versus Cruz, with that being 3 years ago that Cejudo win. Cejudo is the former UFC flyweight and bantamweight champion. Also on this card is Muhammad versus Burns, in which I think Muhammad will win via unanimous decision. I really like Muhammad, and I kind of think that he deserves a title shot now, and it wouldn't have surprised me if he'd have got it coming off his last victory. It was a big victory versus Brady, but of course he's here now fighting, and that probably means that Covington is going to fight Edwards. That has kind of been set up fight to happen, and so I think if Muhammad wins this fight, I think he'll either end up fighting Usman or he'll fight Edwards straight for the title. It wouldn't surprise me if it be Usman, to be honest, because I'm sure that Usman will be looking at this fight wanting to test before he can go back in to another title shot. And well, if he wins it, of course. And I do really like Muhammad though, and I do think that he definitely deserves these big fights. And fair play to Burns. I mean, he was only on the last pay-per-view, and now he's back fighting again. But like I said, I think this will be too much for him. It's a bit of a different step up and a bit of a tougher challenge compared to what Masvidal was at that point in his career. Sterling, though, going back to that fight, I would say he's been quite unfortunate recently to not be able to have a convincing win, because I mean he's faced adversity. Of course he had the incident with Jan in the first fight where Jan threw the elbow and was disqualified, and of course in his last fight versus Dillashaw had his shoulder popped out twice, 2 to 3 times, and couldn't really defend himself, to be honest. And it is a bit unfair on Sterling because people have been questioning Sterling's ability and if he's actually that good or not, but like he can't do anything different than what he's doing with the opposition he is getting put up against, because of course if these things are going to happen then he can't do anything about that happening. And so like I said, I think if he is going to win this one, it would be nice to see him do it in a convincing fashion and not have any kind of adversity facing or coming his way, because like I said, I think he deserves it if he of course does win this one. But let's speak about Sterling. So his off the back game, I mean fighting on top of someone's back or off his back, is just immense. I mean he calls himself the human backpack, and he is just so good off the back, and the way he finds the back of his opponents, I mean he did it versus Jan, he's done it against a lot of his opponents. It is just very impressive how he can do it, and like I said, even when he's on his back himself up against the cage, he can get out of them situations very well, and like I said, it's very impressive, and that would be his main asset. But of course, his kicking game, he'll go high, he'll go low, he sticks onto opponents, links to being off the back. He has very good scramble. He's quicker off the block than I'd say Cejudo is. He doesn't force fights, because I mean Dillashaw fight, I mean when you see an opponent have his shoulder popped out twice during the fight, you can try and force it and maybe be a bit reckless and maybe do a bit too much, but he doesn't, and he doesn't do too much, and yeah, like I say, he doesn't try to force it. He's also got good movement, and he's got a solid defense. He pounces when he sees any kind of anything in general. I suppose he does kind of pounce on opponents in general, and I suppose that's what catches them off guard a little bit and is opening their back, I suppose, to it. I don't know, but the way he pounces is very impressive. I suppose the negatives about him, he's not as good as a striker as what Cejudo is. He's a bit wild at times. He does invite shots. When he was fighting Jan, there was times where he was fighting with the back foot. That's not a problem, but he just is going to invite shots, and maybe against certain fighters. I mean, Jan's probably the best striker in the bantamweight division, bar maybe one or two, but that's probably going to mean that he can take punches from some of the best, if not the best. He can't always close the show. I mean, I know it's similar to me saying he doesn't force it, but there is times as well where he'll be on the ground and he'll be in a position to be able to get his opponent out there in a submission, or at least it looks like that, and he just doesn't always force it. Not force it. I don't know if that's the right word, but he doesn't always like put out the show and turn it up when needed, I suppose. And yeah, like I said, I mean, he doesn't force it, but he also doesn't do too much that it means he's not always going to win his fights via stoppage. But I mean, there's not really much of a problem with that, to be honest. But Cejudo is a fighter. He's a wrestler, one of the best wrestlers around. Been in the Hall of Fame of Wrestling, I believe, and an amazing wrestler. He's got amazing movement as well. He's used to being the smaller guy. He will be by, I don't know how much, but not load, I don't think, but he will be. He's composed. Is he the bantamweight GOAT? People are questioning if he is. Of course, he is the two different weight category champion, and people were saying if he is the bantamweight GOAT. I mean, he beat Cruz, is one of the best bantamweights, and he kind of retired because he thought that there was nobody else to beat. But now he's coming back to beat Sterling, to probably try and beat O'Malley and Dvalishvili maybe. Just anybody that stands in his way, and he wants to be the guy who can beat everybody. A bit like John Jones at the moment as well. I mean, he's got heavy kicks. Them kicks versus Cruz were heavy. He's physically strong. He doesn't really look like it in his body type, but he is very physically strong. He's got very good ground control. He's patient. He controls the center. He feints. He's fast. He pounces as well, but he pounces in a different way. He pounces when he sees you hurt. Did that versus Cruz. People were saying it's a bit of a bad stoppage, but I mean, he did what he had to do, and he pounced on it when it was necessary and when he got him hurt, and that was a good time shot with the knee to the head. And like I said, it's a very difficult shot to be able to time, but when it is open, then it's a great shot. The kind of negatives, of course, he's been inactive. It's going to be interesting to see if he can come back and just be the same kind of guy that he was 3 years ago. And I don't know if not everybody can be like John Jones and be able to do that. He will fill you out, so he possibly takes a couple of rounds to do that. I'd say that Sterling's probably more of a quicker starter off the blocks, like I mentioned. He has to find his range. Sometimes that can take a little bit of time, but it's when he's there, he's there. He can duck into shots. He ducks his head down a little bit at times. I suppose that's him looking for the wrestling kind of aspect. But I think if Sterling, I know he's not the best of strikers, so I don't know if he's going to be able to time anything like that. But I'm just saying that might be open. Possibly means he's got his back open more if he's ducking his head down. I don't really know, to be honest. He's a little bit weaker to leg kicks in his times versus Johnson and Moraes when I don't know if he lost versus Moraes. I know he did versus Johnson. The leg kicks were one of the more weaker kind of aspects towards him. He's got an open guard when he gets hit, and he was getting hit a little bit versus Cruz, not a crazy amount, but a little bit. And so he does have a bit of an open guard when he does get hit, and so he is open to get hit. In my opinion, this is a 50-50 matchup. I don't think everybody's seeing it like that, but when I look at the kind of matchup on paper, I suppose, I think it is a bit of a 50-50 matchup. And I mean, Sterling is of course a favourite, being the champion. I know it's not, you don't always see that, but majority of the time you do. But I've seen a lot of people go against Sterling for this fight. A lot of people going for Cejudo. They're probably saying he's a bit more well-rounded. But I'm going to go with a Sterling victory. But I think I'm going to say via split decision. I think it's going to be immensely close. I would love to see a rematch if it is a really good fight, and I think it will be. But I think Sterling, if he can just start that a little bit quicker and find his range, just be able to commit, I think it'd be interesting to see how Cejudo reacts when he's got a Sterling on his back and how he manages to get him off. Of course, he is a very good wrestler himself, but I don't know how well he'll be able to adapt to that. Be interesting to see. And so if Sterling can get possibly the first couple rounds, maybe it means in the later rounds he can sit off a bit, and he does sometimes do that. But I think a split decision win is what I'm going to go for Sterling. I think, like I said, I think it'll be an amazing fight. Like I said, I would love to see a rematch if it's this close. Other opponents that Sterling could fight if he wins more convincingly, or Cejudo if he wins. O'Malley, of course, the option probably will be the next because he talks the most and he's got the most amount of tension around him. Dvalishvili, I don't know if he would fight Sterling, to be honest. I don't even know if that fight would happen. If it would, there'd be a lot of respect, I'd imagine, between the two fighters because they are mates. And of course, Sandhagen, I mean, he's coming off the win versus Vera. Obviously, he's not the best of runs before that, but I mean, a win's a win, and in UFC, if you win a big fight, then you're automatically in there amongst the best, and so it wouldn't surprise me if he gets a big matchup soon, possibly a title shot. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.